All right. Afternoon, everybody. All my friends on in YouTube land, welcome.
Good afternoon.
We're looking at a members trade I had up on the screen there. I'll get that down. A great trade on Microsoft. Took advantage of that pullback. It's the hat show time. Mario, we're doing it hat free today. just just my bald pate you can look at. Oh, sorry. Gotta keep them, you have to keep the hats special. As somebody pointed out to me, you do it every day, it's not special anymore. Mike, you're welcome to join me on camera if you want.
I'll be right there. Give me a couple minutes.
That's not a problem. Not a problem. It's been an interesting day. Really choppy open. Tough open. Tough open. In fact, I don't know if all of you in the room were here this morning, but let me. I can pull it up from over here. You can see that we had a number of our users that had a tough day. I did this survey this morning at about 10:30, so about an hour into the market. And normally, I have never seen it worse than about 35% of our traders being green. Normally, it's about 50-50, green to red. But this morning, we only had about 39, is that right? 39%? Yeah, see, the number changed from when I printed this and then the final feedback. If you can see, let me move my head out of the way here. You can see up here, we had the results here where only in the end it was only 27% that were green, so either slightly green or very green. And so here is very green and yeah. So here is 26%. Here is 27%. So in any event, right? It's very few. So a lot of red on the screen today for our members, and that happens. There are days like that. This was a choppy open. It's tough to trade. So don't feel bad if you've had a rough day.
Yes, it was a choppy one.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to get a web camera for my other computer.
Indeed. All right, here we go. I've got Mike's up top for those of you watching on YouTube. I'm down below him. So my name is Peter. Mike's my buddy on the mic. I keep wanting to make a really bad joke every time I say that.
Yeah.
Like you haven't heard it before, right?
Oh yes, I've heard it lots.
And then, guys, you get to watch here. This is our chat room, just some of the conversation in our chat room. We have a number of tabs, actually, where people can share their trades, get technical support, talk about swing trading. This is just one of our main tabs where people have an active conversation. You guys can say hi to everybody out watching in YouTube land. There you go. Thanks, Mario. Ethan and Venla and Andrea, a few people jumping in there. A lot of people that have sort of called it a day after the morning, and I don't blame them for that. Although it did, there were trades this afternoon, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But there's a couple of good opportunities. The biggest of which, let me pull up here, was certainly just a few minutes ago when Zoom announced that. It's really more Google announced that they were no longer allowing it on, was it mobile Windows platforms? Anyways, Google announced that they're going to disallow it for their employees under certain circumstances. And you can see immediately what happened, right? We got this on our Benzinga feed, which is our live news. And as soon as it announced, I had an opportunity to enter right here, and I balked at it, and now I'm very upset with myself. But It was a move directly related to the news. So if you hear the news early enough, you can take a reaction trade. We talk about that. This is exactly the type of thing where Benzinga pays for itself for the entire year, right? It's worth listening to the guy all year for when you can take advantage of those trades. And there I was, and I failed. I had, oh well. Welcome to trading, right? You don't get anywhere playing the coulda, shoulda, woulda game. You just got to let it go and move on.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
The coulda, woulda, shoulda does nothing but hurt your psychology.
Absolutely.
Get
In
your,
fact,
get
we
your
had a
emotions
web.
riled up for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's talk about that in a second. But we had a webinar last night that was directly related to that. For any of our members, I know a number of you were able to attend Dr. Katz's seminar, but he talked to me like it was exactly about what I have a problem with, which is taking the trade. Here's a great example, right? Zoom set up. There was no reason not to. I didn't get the entry I wanted, but instead of killing it and starting again, because I still knew the opportunity was there, I said, "Oh, I've missed it. I better back off, or bad things are going to happen." So I had and I loved one of the things he said about, I used to call it the fear of trading, but he was right. I was actually anxious. And the difference between anxiety and fear is fear would be in reaction to a real threat. Anxiety is just the concern of a threat that might come. So the anxiety, it's all in my head, right? Like the setup was there. There was no reason to fear that trade. It was a great opportunity, but I was anxious about, well, what if it pulls back against me and I lose money? And I didn't get in. So, anyways, it's a great seminar.
There's nothing to
It's talked to
fear.
me too. I have that same problem. I got this wonderful setup. It's going there. And then right before the entry, I always seem to talk myself out of or find that one reason
Yeah,
why you shouldn't take the entry.
exactly.
Even
Talk
though
yourself
there's
out of it.
15 other reasons saying, hey, that's a good trade.
And I heard Brian's voice out there.
There's nothing to fear but fear itself,
Yeah.
as they say.
I always loved that quote.
That's a good one.
Unfortunately, it's being misused these days. Watching the news, there was a bunch of ministers that were using it to talk to their congregation as to why they should go to church in the southern U.S. And that's upsetting me because
Yes.
I'm concerned about people's health. So there you go, Mac. Yes, I have nothing to be anxious about other than anxiety itself. Doesn't quite have that same, doesn't roll off the tongue as well. But,
I like that one.
That one's good.
yeah. Which is now that I actually think about it, that is a vicious loop, isn't it? I'm so anxious that
Yes,
I'm
it
making
is.
myself anxious. Isn't that how you just doesn't your brain melt down after?
You're into a cycle
Yeah,
of anxiousness.
yeah, exactly.
We may have to use that one of these mornings, Mac. I may use that next
There you
week.
go. There you go. Yeah, Mike, put that down for your quotes for the morning. That's awesome. I'll just mention quickly for those that have joined us on YouTube, we are going to be doing something a little different. Immediately after the close, we'll do a review of the day. We put together a pre-market trading list. If you've had the chance to join us for that, you're familiar with what Carlos and Norm do every morning. But we're going to go back over a number of the stocks that are on the trading list, and let's see how they did today. Right, which ones panned out, which ones didn't, what trades were available, and where we know that some members took them. So we'll do that quick review, and maybe Brian will ask your opinion as well along the way, or maybe at the close about what you might see for a swing trading opportunities, if there are any. And yeah, we'll use that to close out the day. And of course, we'll look at anything that may be setting up for an earnings play, although I don't think we've got much coming tomorrow, but we'll take a look at that in a little bit.
Square is looking kind of interesting as a possible breakout from a trading range here. It's definitely breaking a prior high, closed 56.03. You look at the daily there.
Let's take a look at Square. I had a great short on Square earlier. It was a very weird trade though, but worked out. But yeah.
SPY is now selling off. Interesting. Hmm.
Yeah. He has a YouTube. Yeah,
Snap.
Adams, I know a lot of stories of people, church services where they've been putting them online. Sort of force them to try and broadcast these things, which is interesting. I told the story the other day of a friend of mine who's some of his congregations are going to Zoom and they got
I
Zoom
don't-
bombed. That's not a good scenario, but
No. People with not enough time on their hands,
yeah,
or not enough constructive things to do, I guess.
too much time.
Too much time on their hands.
We've had a couple of news-based movements today. I talked about Zoom a minute ago. The other one that's worth mentioning is USO. That was on the news. The Saudis had announced that they were looking at some drastic production cuts, which I think they're going to have to do anyways, because from what I understand, we're running out of storage facilities
Storage.
for crude oil.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
both crude and processed, gasoline. There's just the consumption is way down because people aren't going anywhere. That we're running out of storage. But you can see on that announcement, USO actually popped up from $5 to about $5.30, got halted, and then when it resumed, it's just been slowly grinding its way back up here. So that's the other one. I think there was one more.
Seem to be. I was going to say your screen seems to be frozen. At least for me, anyway. I don't know if it's for other people, but
I know it's updating a little slowly. I've got.
okay, there you go. Now it updated. Yeah,
Okay.
it looked at it, it said 1540, and now it says 1543. So it jumped.
It jumped on you. Well,
3 minutes. Yeah. Okay.
so, yeah.
Anyway,
So I'll apologize to
not
everybody.
sure if that's just on my.
Right at the beginning of this whole pandemic and the shutdown of all of our supply chains, I ordered a new machine to help deliver, these live sessions, and because my machine it's struggling under the weight. In fact, my CPU is right now at 92%, and my graphics processor is at 94%. So I'm using every drop of capacity I have, apparently.
There goes square through 57. Nice move.
So you'll have to bear with me for a couple of weeks until we get some new equipment in here, and it'll be a lot smoother. Yeah, I'm looking at Square here. You're right, it's sitting up at 57 now.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, Square did pop.
Yeah.
More of that woulda, coulda, shoulda, stupid mistakes, huh?
Mark, it's there's no simple answer to that. By age, it was originally built about 8 years ago, but it's actually it's basically a corporate industrial workstation that I've got. Basically, it's a small server that I'm running off of, and then I've upgraded a number of the components, including the graphics cards, so I can run 6 monitors off of it. So, I mean, it's not a bad machine. It's a Xeon X5570 processor. It's got 16 cores. I've got 32 gigs of RAM. It's okay. It's the graphics processing that you need. It's changed a lot, so you need a new device for that.
I'm just
Mario,
trying to.
you can swing.
Yeah, I think it certainly looks nice from in a normal market. I would take that setup as a nice breakout on the daily. I mean, we could be up to next sort of level of resistance, 50, maybe minor one at 50. What would that be? 59, and then a gap fill through 60. Problem is, they seem to have a good day, and then they have a bad day the next day. I don't. But this one's under normal circumstances would be a nice, a good swing trade setup for sure.
There you go.
Lyft. Let's take a look at Lyft.
Let's
Do
lift
either of you have have this 273.25 marked on the SPY as a level? I at some point marked it there.
I don't. 273.25. Let me take a look. What is that?
I don't know where I got it from, but it seems to be kind of.
Yeah, lift
Consolidating around it.
Lift is interesting. I mean, we've got a level here at just over 30. Or you're almost like literally right on 30. So again, we just this market just doesn't want to die.
Die already.
Right? It does not want to die. Just
Mike, I see where you might have got it from. Back in June the 3rd, 2019, the market spiked pretty much right down to that level. That could be what was...
Right to that level. Yeah, that's probably where I pulled it from.
Yeah.
It's nice little.
Yeah, put it on there. We'll see how significant it is. Cutting right across the price action today, certainly.
Yeah, and Mario just mentioned that the volume by price is pretty high around that area too.
Is it?
I don't have that on my chart.
Well, let's take a look. Let's throw it on here. We'll do that quickly. The volume by price. And I'll put the point of control on here as well, and we'll see what it says. Yeah, actually, he's right. So that's, if you look, I've got it up on my screen. So the biggest bar, so volume by price for anybody that hasn't seen it, it's a little faint here, but it basically shows you where the most shares have traded hands at what price level. The point of control is the yellow line you see running across here. That's basically the most, the highest number of shares, and that is coming in. Looks like at 273.15 ish area. So, and if so that would be over the last, over today, anyways. Let's see on a daily. Yeah, daily it's nowhere near there, but certainly for today, yeah. Brian, you had, was it today or yesterday that you traded Microsoft off the open? I can't remember now. It's all a blur.
Oh, yes, yesterday.
That was yesterday? What did you trade this morning? Because I know it was a tough day, but you had a great trade right off the open on something.
Yeah, it was TAL.
TAL, right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Now that was kind of a classic trade for me. Yeah, a stock gapping down, but in the leading up to the market open, a stock trading above the VWAP. So quite often you have gap down, you have stocks gapping down, and then they'll be trading again below the VWAP. Now look, it's Lyft is trying like it's going to go through the.
Ooh, SPY just did a big.
Yeah. Wow.
Big bounce.
Oh. Too. Dang.
There's got filled on the last little part of that woulda, coulda, shoulda SQ trade. Mine.
Oh, look at that! Yeah.
And pins got filled on that woulda, coulda, shoulda trade too.
Brian's all despondent now. He was happy about talking his TAL trade. And I was like, dang, god darn it. Oh well.
Well, I was going to take an SPXL trade just before that happened, and I got distracted, and I didn't push the buy button, and then it just ripped.
That's my bad.
Kind of disappointed on that.
That's probably my bad.
Anyway,
you're telling us about the classic pattern on TAL at the open.
Yeah. They so we get a nice I have almost every time that's happened, I've seen a squeeze at the open. stock, even though it's gapping down, it'll push higher, and that's basically the play we had with Tau. It just gave a nice little pop right at the open. It didn't, usually they follow through a little more. This one didn't, but still, that's it did have a kind of a violent trade up, pop up at the open. So,
you had to be fast.
And that was basically the move I was looking for. Got that, and then got out, and it was a good thing because it proceeded to roll over.
It was a quick trade for sure.
Yeah, so that was could have been one and done, and then I did a few other ones that just were duds. The rest of the day was just kind of a series of flat trades.
Yeah, that's we were talking about that a little bit earlier to say that it's one of those things that you have to decide on sort of your style and your time frame. Brian, I was reviewing some of the at 10:30 when I did the poll about how people's day went. We had the lowest number of green traders that I've ever seen. So now that could have changed. I haven't done another poll, but the point is that if you're going to trade the open, you got to be careful on what you're trading, especially on days like this. But even days with terribly choppy opens where they don't give you a good trade, like I didn't take a trade for the first 15 minutes almost. There were great opportunities later on, but you've got to be watching all day, and that's tough. Like that concentration, I found it's hard. It's hard to maintain it.
Yes. So that's why you got to sort of pick where you think your strengths are, your trading strengths. Interesting. So we look at Square. Square is continuing to move very nicely.
Yeah. So you were looking at it at 57. It's now up 57.60-ish.
Yeah.
Wow. We had a question in the room a little bit earlier. And sorry, you were asking, let me just go back here. You're asking me about, Michael, sorry, yeah, and I meant to get to it. You're asking about the volume point of control. Where do I find that? So first you need to have, so I'll go to study config. And you need to have the volume by price study. So here I've got the volume by price study. You go into config, and it's right here, show point of control. So you see I've got it as a thick yellow line. You can make it whatever you want. But that is where you find that setting.
There we go.
Yeah, Mark, I like what you're saying, Mark. So you changed your strategy in the last 2 weeks. At the open, you'd read your rules, then meditate for 5 minutes and prevent you from trading. That's great. Like, like I've said, I so desperately for years wanted to be an open trader because I've been watching Andrew for years, and he is a master at trading the open, and I so much wanted to do that. And I've had to come to the conclusion, as much as it pains me, I can't. I'm not good at it. So it doesn't mean I don't trade the open, but I trade differently. I'm looking for different things than Andrew's looking for because I can't figure out what he's looking for. At least I can't replicate it. I understand theoretically what he's looking for. I can't do it myself. And just following another trader is never going to be a path to success. So you need to find a methodology that works for you. So I found now tools and approaches that work for me. And, it's a hard thing sometimes to just say, look, I see the success other people are having, but I've got to do it my own way, or, you're sort of, otherwise I'll just be giving my money away. So tonight I'm
Peter
happy.
makes, I agree more with that.
Yeah, Peter makes a very good point. That's why we try to emphasize that we're training people to trade, and you've really got to find where your niche is in trading. It's not just about doing one style of trading or trying to copy another trader. Copying another trader is almost going to always end in losing money. So
And in tears.
Yeah, hand in tears, as they say.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So tonight I'm happy to share with our members a style of trading that I've developed. It's complementary to a lot of other things that people do. We call it the lightning bolt pattern. We'll be doing that in our classroom for all of our members tonight. So just join me in the classroom if you're a BBT member. If you're not, you might want to consider joining. But it'll be good because I'll lay out exactly how the strategy works, where you can employ it, exactly with the entry, the stop loss, how you set your targets. I'll go through it in detail. So hopefully it'll be educational. And again, it's not telling you how to trade. It's giving you another perhaps tool in your toolbox, another strategy that you could employ if it resonates with you. And it's always good to learn these because I know that I've watched dozens, if not hundreds, of these things. And some you're like, yeah, that's not me. I don't want to do that. Others look good, but I can't really make it work for me. And then there's others that like I love it and I will modify it such that I can use it. I mean, we talk in the room all the time here about traders that say, hey, Peter, I took that thing you showed me and here's how I use it. Thor the other day was saying, yeah, Peter, you showed me how to use this method, and now Thor's using it better than I do, and all power to him. But I learned it from a member in the room who said, "Hey, Peter, you should look at this." So that's how we pass on that knowledge, and it's fantastic. It really is.
The power of a trading community.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Somebody was saying here. Yeah, Hiltzy tried to copy Andrew when he started in July. It didn't work. Yeah, like it's funny, eh? Like I tried for years because I thought he's so successful. Surely, if I could just get like a quarter of the success that Andrew's demonstrating, I'll be golden. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't make it work. And I'm like, what the heck is wrong with me? And I realized it wasn't anything wrong with me. I'm just different, right? I've got different skill sets. My brain works differently. I process information differently. So you just have to realize that. And we were talking the other day, like the hardest thing I had to admit to myself was that whole fight or flight response. I was telling some embarrassing stories the other day to our members about that, but and I think Andrew's got a great fight response, meaning that when he gets in a high pressure situation, he's able to process, like his processing speeds up, and the adrenaline kicks in, and he can do well in that scenario. I don't do well in those scenarios. When the pressure kicks up, my system's shut down, right? So I'm the guy that runs away from a fight. And, I have to be honest with myself about that. Otherwise, I'll be trying to employ strategies that won't work for me. So I've got to get myself out of those pressure situations such that I have time to assess a trade. And that's why if you look at all of my strategies, they actually have pretty long setups. Because I need that time to process and say, you know what? This is okay. This is good. And I said I'll be showing you one tonight. So. All right, with that, we're almost to the close here. There was a couple of good moves, as I mentioned. Right after the close, we'll do a little bit of a review of the day. We'll see how it goes. Look for your feedback and input. So feel free to provide some comments, both on YouTube and in the room. I'll try and watch both. Mike Hagman, you're asking what kind of desktop? My current one? My current one is like a Dell Precision T3500. I don't know. Anyways. Well, there's the bell.
There's the bell.
There's the bell. The new one, I've ordered a brand new configured Dell machine, so it shows Alienware, sort of a gaming rig, which should be good because it'll give me the processing power. So let me just give me a second here, guys, and here's what I do. I will look at that. Look at those pretty pictures. You guys can't see it if you're in the room. You got to have the YouTube feed, but let me actually hold on a second. I'll show you momentarily. There you go. Handsome devils. Anyways, just switching over my screens here so we can do some stuff into the close. All right. Here we are. We're back. So, what were we looking at this morning? Let me just start with. Let me pull the room out here because I'm going to need the space, I think, to. Sorry, guys. Oof, look at the spy moving away here. Things didn't exactly set up the way I'd anticipated. 1 second. There it is. Looking for that. Where'd you go? All right. So, let me put this over here. Show you what I'm looking at. So, I keep a list of standard stocks that I look at throughout the day, as well as, and I trust everybody in the room, you can see this, as well as stocks that that we look at over the course of the day. And I keep this on a running tally so that I can continue to watch, so I know what I was looking at in previous days. And somehow I forgot to save my list, so I lost a few here. My bad. We'll get this smoother next time I do this. Promise. Anyways, so for now, here's the key list that I want us to focus on. Is this stuff in here? So today we were looking at a few things that had that we had called up. Let me bring it here so you can see it. Here we go. Pinterest. Let's start with Pinterest. Pinterest was setting up well this morning. It had news. The news catalyst on it was, I think they had sort of pre-released some good guidance. So we said, all right, well, there might be an opportunity. Let me look at a 2-minute chart so we can see. Pre-market wasn't looking that great. But it came into the open. It got some good volume at the open, but it made an unexpected pullback. Now, I was looking for this potentially for a long side trade. Obviously, that didn't happen, and we ended up. I didn't trade it. Now, I don't know if actually I'll be curious. Anybody in the room? Did any of you guys trade Pinterest? I didn't hear anybody announce a Pinterest trade actually. Now, it doesn't typically move a lot. No. Did you, Brian?
Yeah, no, I know. I did. I said I didn't take a trade. No, sorry.
Right. So Lindsay and Andrea.
If I hadn't made that mistake, I would have been in one.
Yeah. And so it doesn't actually move a whole lot, but there was a couple of good opportunities. The best of which, frankly, was right here around 1 o'clock that I wanted to highlight. So let me just move back to a 1-minute chart, and I'll show you guys what I was seeing. But I unfortunately I had a conference call at 1 o'clock, and we did have a member. Actually, now that I remember, so somebody did take this. This is one of my favorite setups. So remember I mentioned I like slower setups. This is one that gives me the double confirmation. So here we have a double top, right? Pretty much at high of day. Pinterest made a high of day top. Then it made a lower high. And I see the 50 moving average coming in. I always do this in a 1-minute chart. So my moving average here, the gray is the 9, the green is the 20, and the red is the 50. So what I look for is the 50 moving average crossing over the 9 and 20. So you can see they moved down sharply. The 50 was coming in, but you could tell this was happening even before it crossed after the double top. So usually I like to take an entry just before the cross and look at the drop we got. To me, this is like one of my classic setups. It was a great opportunity. I know at least one member took that and had a fantastic trade out of that. So that was to me the best opportunity of the day, at least on Pinterest. The rest of the day was pretty choppy and a little hard to trade. What else were we looking at? One of them we had was GNMK. It had news that they were their revenues were up due to the COVID virus and I guess their vaccine response to it. Frankly, right from the open, I didn't see anything I liked on it. The pre-market wasn't that great, pretty choppy. There was potentially, you could see a trade here off of VWAP, but I remember watching it, and it really didn't give a good signal that I was going to take. So, not a great trader. Novavax was another one we were looking at this morning. It was looking great into the open. Pre-market, this thing looked great. It was coming in with some strong movement. Look what happened at the open, right? Dropped off the open, did some very wicky price movement here before it did make a move up and then sort of leaked down for the rest of the day. Again, not one that I traded. I know that Andrew was also looking at it, but I don't think he ended up taking a trade on that. FDX, FedEx had some news this morning, some positive news, I think, with Amazon. Didn't really yield itself. I only watched it at the open. I saw all this choppy price action and said, you know what, never mind, there's better targets out there. So I stopped watching that as well. Zoom was a big trade of the day. Zoom is, it doesn't matter what the market is doing. Zoom seems to want to do the opposite. I think in our room, Norm traded it earlier today. Or was it BA? He might have traded BA.
Yeah, I think he traded BA this morning.
Did he? Yeah. Okay. And then, it did provide some opportunity. I find it hard to trade, so I didn't take the trade. The big opportunity was on the news alert. So when that news alert hit, I'm still upset about this. That I really should have taken it. But yeah, I mean, you can see quite starkly, right? When the news hit, the thing dropped directly when Google said they weren't allowing their employees to use it on certain platforms. So that was the big drop there. CCL has been a perennial, a favorite for the last month or so with all the issues. But look how choppy. Look at the wicks on this. I did take a trade on it today, but it really didn't lend itself to good trading in my mind, and it was really tough to trade. American Airlines, to me, was much the same. Now, that being said, Thor in our room had a great trade on American. He was watching it carefully. He took the opportunity at VWAP. I can't remember if it was right around noon or a little bit later, but he got a great move. He got basically this nice big pull up on it. Great trade, but I found it a little tough to trade. The last two that I'll mention here was Boeing. I mentioned that there was a trade that was actually Norm did take Boeing for sure. He was watching it at VWAP. He was watching the succession of higher lows. Look at this, higher low, higher low, higher low on wicks that shows you it couldn't push lower. He got in around 146, I don't remember, 146.25, so somewhere around here, I'm not sure, and was able to take this ride all the way up. So great trade for Norm. He's very patient on his trades and did a good job on managing Boeing. So that was the big opportunity there on Boeing. And last but not least, I was going to mention TAL. It had news this morning on potential sales fraud. So it's a Chinese, I think they're an educational company. And Luckin, which you may know, has been halted for I guess it's day 2 now, right? That it's been halted because of the news that they fraudulently increased their revenues. TAL had sort of similar news, so I was looking for a big sell-off, and at the open it popped up here and then had these big wicks or was bouncing around, so I didn't trade it. I saw it coming into these moving averages and I thought, well, let's wait and see what happens, and look, it popped up and down. So I never found an opportunity to trade it. It looks like if you were not listening to the news so much, you could have just traded as a momentum play. And it would have been a good one for momentum. So, which moves me to something I wanted to mention. This was actually a fairly slow day on the markets overall. If you look at the markets in the SPY, the volume was down. So I keep on my screen the relative volume. That's what this R vol is right here, right? And R vol shows you the volume relative to the last 2 weeks. And you can see the SPY overall was only 58% of the average volume. Now, we've had very high volume days recently. So this 58% is probably about equivalent to what the volume was a month ago. However, it's all relative, right? Which means that this current volume is going to be lower, which means you're going to see a couple of things. You're either going to see increased volatility, right? Things bouncing up and down more, or you're just going to see things sort of move sideways without a lot of price action. But what you will see when volume is relatively lower is you don't see great trending moves. At least that's my experience. So the stuff that's on my staple list, and I kept it here on purpose, right? Look, Apple, Amazon, Baba, Disney, Facebook, all of these ones, everything except for Pinterest, which had news, they're all also below their average volume, which don't make them great trading targets, generally, when the volume is lower. The stuff that had the news, look, they are well over their average volume at 300% and higher. So that's the type of stock that we look for, and that's why we go through the morning and do the pre-market gappers list, because we're looking for things that are going to have high relative volume that will give us good moves. And you notice almost everything on our list that we just looked at all had above average volume that gives us just a better chance for moves. Now, as I showed you, not all pan out, but at least we know that our list was yielding value because we were identifying those things that were moving more actively throughout the course of the day. Mike, I know you were watching a couple of things. Anything you were that I didn't look at that was worth mentioning? What's going on? Why can't I hear Mike? One sec, guys.
I took that at about 1,400 and then found out that I was in my sim account.
Yeah, Mike, I lost you for... Sorry, I wasn't hearing the room, so my apologies on that. But yes, I know you took a bunch of trades in your sim account that...
You might have lost Peter.
Oh. Sorry, look at this.
Oh, now there he is. He's
sorry,
back.
Mike. I had to restart the room. For some reason, I couldn't hear you. And then when I came back on, I forgot to turn my mic on, so you couldn't hear me. Anyways, I was saying, for people on YouTube, we lost most of what you were saying, but you thought you were trading live, but you actually were in your sim account, right?
Yep. So fatal mistake. That's why you have checklists in the morning to make sure you don't do that. Last night I was just messing around with hotkeys and trying a couple different things out that Kyle had posted. And then I had just closed it down and just never reset my orders back to the live account. So doing something out of the norm that I didn't normally do. So didn't even think twice about not being in a live account in the morning.
Yeah, indeed. Well, that's something we were talking about like a pilot when you have a pre-flight checklist. The reason why they do that every single time is partly because of the monotony, right? If you've taken 1,000 flights, you have an expectation everything's going to be the way you expect. And your eyes don't naturally go to the things that are wrong, which is why you explicitly go through a checklist when you're a pilot, because you can't afford to have one of those switches in the wrong position or something set incorrectly. As a trader, we should be thinking the same way, right? Like we do this every day. You know what things should look like. But if you change something that you don't normally change, you're not necessarily going to be thinking to look for it. So you should go through, a checklist that says, all right, so, am I on my live account? Is my default set appropriately? Whatever. Like, go through that explicitly and make sure you're set up properly, or these things can happen.
Yep, they can. So it's all right though. Tomorrow will be another day. Go into Thursday.
Indeed. Mark was asking about the RVOL. Yeah, the RVOL is actually calculated to that point in the day, which means it can change drastically. Like I've seen days where the volume is huge at the open and then drops off. There was one day, I think it was actually Luck and Coffee when it had that big trading. The RVOL was at like 3,600% of average, and over the course of the day it dropped down to about 1,200% of average because the volume dropped off so significantly that it wasn't as high compared to normal. So at the beginning of any given day, these numbers will always be 100%. So don't get worried if you're going into the open and you say, why are my numbers all 100? They'll all be 100 until the open. And it's only at the open that they start to change. So Brian had to go, so my apologies. We're going to say bye because he said that while I had lost the room there, but hopefully he has a great night. Let me just check. Any earnings? There's really nothing of interest after the close today. There's a couple of earnings, but frankly, nothing I trade. Tomorrow morning, Thursday morning, last day of the week. Cons. That's not so interesting to me. At least I don't think I've ever traded it. CONN. That's about it. All right, so nothing I would normally trade. So not seeing any great earnings plays.
I don't think the big companies come out till next week.
No, well, it's funny because we've limped into this earnings season a little more weekly than normally. But you're absolutely right. So if I pull up, I like to use guys earnings Whispers. It gives me some great information. So you can see I'm on Monday now. Monday at the open, or before the open, we're going to have JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Johnson & Johnson. Fast can occasionally be a good trader. Infosys, foreign company, right? It's a Indian company. So there's a few anyways that we could potentially trade, and then the earnings ramp up. You can see it sort of over the course of next week. We're getting a lot more. By Thursday, we're going to have like over 100 companies reporting, so we'll have a lot more things to watch. So, should be fun next week. I don't know what I'm going to do with a long weekend when you can't go anywhere. I actually haven't been watching a lot of Netflix. Maybe I'll have to catch up on my Netflix. Do you ever catch up? Is there such a thing as catching up on Netflix? Like, it's either you watch it or you don't.
It's called binge watching.
Binge watch, yeah, exactly. That's when you sit there with a tub of ice cream and you just watch until the ice cream melts, or it's all gone.
Yep.
Whichever comes first.
So.
I will mention one last time, guys, if I go to our website and look up the classes we've got a couple of good classes. Tonight I'll be teaching using the lightning bolt pattern that I mentioned. Next week, though, on next Wednesday, we're going to have Brian Shannon that'll be talking about the VWAP in a whole different way. He's going to use the anchored VWAP. And that's it's a relatively new measure, because the VWAP used to be an intraday measure only. Now that you can anchor it, you can actually use it a little differently. And he'll explain that and how he uses that. That should be a great seminar and a great opportunity to learn how he does it at Alpha Trade. So that's on the 15th for our members. And then on the 22nd, Dr. Kenneth Reed will be with us, talk about navigating volatility. So another great session. Last but not least, I suppose, is our good buddy Andrew, who's going to be talking about how to use the moving averages for short-term trading. So that'll be in a couple of weeks on the 29th of April. So that's our upcoming courses that we've got in the classroom. You can see photos of some of our members. Love that. Always love that. All right. Well, thank you to all of our members. You guys are always fantastic, always actively participating, especially my good friends who provide me commentary and support every single day. So thanks to all of you. I appreciate it. And
yes, thank you, everybody.
Mike, you have a great night, and I'll be talking to many of you this evening in the classroom. So, to everybody on YouTube, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you at the at the open, right? The pre-market open tomorrow morning at 8:30 with Carlos. If you don't normally watch that, it's a good opportunity to see how we get these things on our trading list. And that might provide you with some ideas and opportunity to trade throughout the day. So take care, everyone. Have a great night. Later, Mike.
Later, Peter. Thanks, everybody.